Future Matt. So today is Wednesday, and that means that it's New Comic Book Day. So in spirit of that, I thought I'd do a little video talking about comics and what's on my pull list, so what I'm collecting, and some of my favourite arcs that I've read. So starting things off, I'm collecting Adventure Time. Now, anyone that knows me knows I'm a massive Adventure Time fan, so the comics were kind of like a natural next thing to start collecting. And the style is pretty much exactly the same as the show, and the humour and writing is the same as well. It's just like a nice little extra thing, really. But yeah, it kind of expands on the lore a bit, because, like, you know, in this arc, Finn goes back in time and becomes like an old man. It's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I really like it. Second, we got All-Star Batman, written by Scott Snyder. He's like pretty much a legend as far as Batman goes. And this kind of All-Star run, he kind of collaborates with loads of different artists and things like that. Like, he started off with John Romita Jr. for the first arc, and now he's just getting loads of people in, like Jock and this new artist who I don't actually know, Lotte? I don't know. One thing I love about the All-Star Batman comics is the covers are so cool. Like, this guy called Jock, who's one of my favourite artists, he did the variant covers for the first 6-7 issues. And the art's always really good, and the story's always cracking. Can't go wrong. And then we got Avengers, classic, it's got to be in there somewhere. So this is issue 4 from the Marvel Now 2.0 reboot. It's all ridiculous. But I started collecting the all-new, all-different Avengers last time, and was going to give it up. I thought I'd give this one a go, and I'm glad I did, because the artist Mike Del Mundo just does excellent, like, little, just massive spreads, and it's just really cool. Mark Waid, who writes it, has pulled his finger out a bit, and is kind of doing some really good stories, like sort of to do with time travel and Kang and stuff. I'm in, it's good. And then we have Batman, the sort of, the main title from DC. I'm a massive Batman fan, so this was always going to be a title that I was going to collect. It's written by Talkin, who I love. He's done some really good stuff. I'll get onto him later. Yeah, Talkin's quite a literary writer, like, and each arc has been sort of named after a thing. So first one's called I Am Gotham, the second arc is I Am Suicide, this one's called I Am Bane, and it's drawn by David Finch, who's also really, really good. And Tim Sale does the variant covers for every issue, and he's really great, because he did the Long Halloween, which is like a crazy good Batman story. Hang on. He did the Long Halloween, which is just one of the more famous Batman stories out there. It's just really good, and I think it's a really cool little series to get. So Batman, thumbs up. Then we've got Black Widow, written by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. They're just like the dream team. They're just really good. Samnee's art is just brilliant. It's kind of minimalistic, but it's really cool. But they're one of my favourite teams. They work together on Daredevil, which I'll talk about a bit later. It's a really good, like, spy kind of comic, that. Then Doctor Strange with Jason Aaron and Chris Bachalo. Again, the art's great, the story's great. I love it. It's all very mystical. Basically, in this comic, Doctor Strange has been stripped of all his magic, so he's kind of trying to get by and not die. It's an interesting read. It's pretty good. And Green Arrow, another one off my pull list from DC. This one's a bit on the fence a lot of the time. Like, the story's pretty good, but they keep on changing the artists a lot. Because Otto Schmidt, who draws it most of the time, he's drawn this issue. He's really good. It's got a real kind of indie comic sort of feel. All the panels and things are sort of very cartoonish, which is really cool. But then they keep on switching out with this other guy who drew the cover. And yeah, I'm not too big a fan of his art, so yeah. But I'm sticking with it. And Miss Marvel, the Pakistani hero that everyone sort of champions on Tumblr and stuff. But the comic is really good, so I'm down with it. The style's very cartoony, which I like. And yeah, I feel like the writer for Miss Marvel knows her audience, because it's very kind of aimed at a sort of younger demographic, I think. Then Old Man Logan, I love this comic book. Yeah, it's written by Jeff Lemire, who's got quite a rep behind him. I think the real champion of this book is Andrea Sorrentino, the artist, because she does just crazy, ridiculous panels. Like, it's so good to look at. Like, look at all them, like, it's just madness. The amount of work that goes into making these panels is just mad. Look at that, like, they're all smashed up and it's crazy. It's so cool. Like, I was a bit disappointed they took him out of the sort of post-apocalyptic wasteland setting that he started in, but the art just makes the whole thing worthwhile. Moving on, Reborn by Mark Miller and Greg Capullo, a legendary writer and artist team-up. This is like an indie comic published by Image. It's all about what happens after you die. Here the premise is that after you die, you get sent to another world, and if you're really good in this life, you've got like crazy awesome powers in the next one, and if you're a bad person, you're rubbish in the next life. I think my favourite thing about this comic is the main bad guy is a cat. He's mainly evil because he got his testicles chopped off. It's just brilliant. But yeah, this is really good. Then Snot Girl, another indie comic, written by Brian Lee O'Malley, who's really the only reason I picked this up, because I love Scott Pilgrim, I love Seconds. But yeah, it's all about fashion blogging and things like that, which is just completely not my thing at all. But the story's actually quite good. Like, it's a bit Scott Pilgrim-esque in the sense that I'm not sure what's in the character's head and what's not. It's a good story though, and the art's really good by Leslie Hung. But no, I'm kind of down with it. I think the creative team's on a break at the moment, so I'm kind of not collecting this. I'm not buying any issues at the moment. Then we've got Spider-Man. I've got the #1 issue here by Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli. Again, the art's great. The story's good as well, which with Brian Michael Bendis, it could go either way. He recently did Civil War 2, which was a bit average. This is the Miles Morales Spider-Man as well, so he's like a teenager, which I'm down with, because the regular Peter Parker Spider-Man is like a sort of Tony Stark, Iron Man character now, because he's like a billionaire, but I'm all about Spider-Man as a teenager. Then Spider-Man Deadpool, I've got issue 13 here, it's written by Joe Kelly. It's just really good. I'd argue this is better than the standalone Deadpool title. Spider-Man Deadpool causing mischief, going mad. Here they are in a little pocket universe. It's ridiculous and brilliant, and I love it. I think this is the first title as well where Spider-Man and Deadpool have, like, you know, teamed up in an ongoing thing, as opposed to just, like, a one-shot. And this is a bit cheating, because I'm not actually collecting the comic books, but The Walking Dead, I collect the graphic novels, the volumes. I'm on volume 25 at the moment, so that means I've read up to issue 150 in the comics. But yeah, I'm just a sucker for some zombies, really. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? It's just Walking Dead. It's just a massive sweeping zombie saga. Saga? Zombie saga, probably. Then last but not least on my pull list, Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka. This is a bit of a weird comic, because he structures it so every other issue tells the story. So, like, issue 1 is one story, then issue 2 is another story, and then issue 3 continues the story from issue 1, and so on like that. But he's doing a good job, because both stories have been really good. It's a bit confusing when it comes to reading them back, but it addresses all the reboots as well, because Wonder Woman's had a lot of origins. Can't get out origins. Wonder Woman has had a lot of origins. It just tells the journey of her trying to find out what the truth is and stuff. And in between that, it's like her actual origin being rewritten by Greg Rucka. It's a bit mad, but it's good though. And I haven't got it here, but there's some variant covers by Jenny Frison, I think. They're amazing. They're really cool. So that's all the comics on my pull list that I'm collecting at the moment. And now I thought it'd be fun to go through some of my favourite comic arcs that I've read over the years. So starting things off, again, I'm cheating a bit here. But for Christmas, I got a whole bunch of the Batman graphic novels that Scott Snyder wrote. They collect like the new 52 run from Batman, and it's just really, really good. Like I've only read up to the first 2 volumes about the Court of Owls, but it's so good. Like, it's real dark, real gritty, real good Batman. I love a good bit of Batman. Second up is Daredevil, written by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, the guys who are working on Black Widow that I'm collecting at the moment. This is the comic that put me onto them, because they're such a good creative team, and I loved the original Daredevil. This is about how he kind of moves to San Francisco and has his like a secret identity outed by this mysterious dude. It's all pretty good, and it's a really fun comic. It's real cartoony style. And yeah, I really like the whole run, the whole Daredevil run. I think it won a few Eisner Awards as well. Second up is the sequel to Fight Club 2, written by Chuck Palahniuk. I don't know. Chuck something, I can never pronounce his last name. But this was a really, really fun title. Like, it carries on from the book more so than the movie. You can watch the movie and read this as well, but it carries on from the book a bit better, I think. I really liked how some bits were kind of blacked out by objects on the comic, like petals here, or like there were pills elsewhere. And just look at that page there as well, with his whole head exploding. That's just awesome. Yeah, I think it was deserved. I was a bit sceptical going into it, thinking like, do they need to continue it? But they told a good story, and I liked it. It was very meta, very like, they broke the fourth wall like mad. Next is Karnak, written by Warren Ellis. Now, I had no idea who Karnak was for ages, but upon reading this, I realised he was the coolest character. His whole thing is that he can see the flaws in everything, so naturally he's a philosopher. And yeah, basically he just messes people up. I don't know if you can see that. He just breaks a dude's leg with one touch, because he's bloody mad. It's a cool little thing. It feels a lot like an indie comic the way it's drawn. Like, they changed a whole bunch of artists and it's taken ages to come out, but it was a really good story. And it's definitely one of my favourite arcs. Very short, but really good. Talking of short comic arcs, Limbo. This was a really good indie comic published by Image, written by Dan Watters. Casper Wingard was the artist. It's got this really cool, like, 80s kind of neon tone to the way it's drawn. I don't know how to describe it, but like, you can see what I mean. Like, it's all bright colours, neon colours. And music's really important to it as well, which obviously won me over. I mean, there's a tape on the front cover, so I was sold. Yeah, it's a really good little detective comic that gets pretty weird. It's not afraid to be completely nuts, but ultimately it's a really good story. Next is New Avengers, written by Jonathan Hickman. Now this is kind of representative of just Hickman's entire Avengers run, because I've got some graphic novels over there. The scope of his arc is just madness. Like, the things set up in this one issue here carry through to Secret Wars, the massive event, like 2 years later, which is also one of my favourite runs. Written by Jonathan Hickman, this kind of comic arc just sums up all the madness that have been building for ages in the New Avengers arcs. The guy that draws it is called Esad Ribic, I think, and his style is it's brilliant, it's beautiful, I love it. Like, I don't know, it's very artsy, like the amount of work that's gone into every panel is just mental. Like, it's not cartoony at all, which is very odd for me, because normally I go for that kind of thing. And this is probably the crossover that got me into collecting comics seriously, as opposed to just random, like, little things. Then back to Scott Snyder again. When he's not writing Batman, he also does Superman, or he did this one run called Superman Unchained, which was a really cool Superman title. It's one of the only Superman titles I've really enjoyed. Yeah, it's just kind of like about how the government creates like another Superman, and they just kind of duke it out really. And there's one Superman that's working for the government, and then there's the real Superman. He's like, what the hell, guys? What are you doing? And it all just goes down really. And then last but certainly not least, The Vision. Now, this is one of my favourite comic arcs of all time. I love it. It's written by Tom King, who's doing Batman at the moment, and this is basically just a great big old Shakespearean tragedy. The Vision creates his own family, and then it all just it just goes to shit real quick. The arc only ran for 12 issues, but I'm glad it ended when it did, because it ended perfectly. The whole thing sort of debated what it is to be normal, and it's just a really good... I don't want to spoil it in case anyone reads it, but it's just really good. And the whole style is very... It's very much like an indie comic. It doesn't feel like a Marvel comic when you read it. When I first heard about this, I laughed. I didn't think it'd be any good whatsoever. Because no one was buying it, they released issue 1 in the back of Spider-Man and Deadpool, which I was collecting. So that's the only reason I actually started reading this. And when I did, it just blew me away. This is the comic that made The Vision my favourite Avenger, just because he's just a really interesting character. And this really fleshed that out as much as they possibly could. Anyway, that kind of does it for all my comics. I suppose my question to you, Future Matt, would be, are you still collecting comics? And if so, have you got any new favourite arcs? And what are you collecting as well? Yeah, that should be good. This is such a long video. It's been going for like 20 minutes.